Thank you. So do we have a microphone to do Q&A?
You mentioned the 13 bloodlines. Can you talk about that? And is the Rh negative factor anything to do with it?
When I was in the programs and I would bring up the Rh negative thing, it was kind of poo-pooed, but that was, many years ago. The scientists didn't really subscribe to that very much, but the 13 bloodlines were bloodlines that were put in place by these pre-Adamite groups that were running the earth for a long time. And to this day, many of the major leaders are tied in bloodline-wise to them in some way. So these are the 13 groups that run the world and believe that they are not humans. They're here, and we're basically their higher forms, and we're just some hairless apes that they manage. Is pretty much how they view us.
Hey, how's it going, Corey? I remember you talking about, I think even on the live Edge of Wonder stream, about the follow-up to Above Majestic. I was wondering if you could go into some details on some of the content that you're...
Yeah, some of the content is what's happening here. We're actually shooting some extra content that we hope to use for the movie. But we're going to cover a lot of stuff. We're going to cover the electric universe. We're going to cover the solar flash, ascension, and the secret space programs, how they all relate, the 13 bloodlines, how they're connected to the pre-Adamites that were Atlantis. We're going to talk about the different solar cycles that occur and the mini-novas that they produce, how that relates to ancient texts that talk about the sun erupting. And we're also going to tie it into more contemporary information like the secret space program, how the secret space program developed. NASA, I'm being told, was the concept was to create NASA to find out that if the information that they had in their sacred and secret texts was true, that there was a solar event that destroyed quite a bit of the solar system, on a cycle. They wanted to go out and find evidence of this. Well, the secret space program went out and easily found this evidence. But how do you hand that down to scientists and researchers that are more mainstream? You can't, because it's classified. Where did you get this information? You can't tell them. So they needed an in-between. They needed NASA to send up these rickety rockets to the moon and send guys around in golf carts looking for basically black glass, mass that came from the sun, and they found it. They brought it back. They studied it, and they confirmed that indeed the sun on a periodic basis releases a huge amount of matter and energy. And when that happens, it shoots the mass out, and it happens in cycles. They can't say that this cycle coming up, it's going to be the worst one ever. They don't know. There are the solar events. You have a sphere, okay, and then you have mass exploding off in all directions. Well, some of it gathers together and clumps up, and then there's open areas where there's heat and plasma, but not material. It's kind of, and if we're lucky enough to be in the orbit to where that more open spot is, less dense mass shooting from the sun, then we're going to have an easier time. It's not that it explodes uniformly from the star and just destroys everything as it explodes out. So they can't really predict how bad it's going to be. On Suspicious Observers, they speak about this Adam and Eve document that the CIA put out, where they put out the study about what would happen on for a pole shift, which would be the byproduct of the solar event. And it was the worst case scenario. The wind blowing at 700 miles an hour across the earth, oceans leaving their basins and covering the highlands. That was the worst case scenario, and it could be anywhere from a moderate event to a devastating event. Either way, it's going to be a bad day on the planet Earth. But I'm told that the sun, everything's connected. Our mass consciousness has a direct effect on our star, and our star has a direct effect on us. And the interaction of the two can determine what type of event this ends up being. Energetically, if we have our mass consciousness has an effect on the sun in the right way, at the right time, as it's going mini-nova, then it has a direct effect on how it explodes and how severe the experience is. So we do have power in the situation. That when you talk about earth changes and cataclysms, you feel so small and powerless until you understand truly some of the stuff that Dr. Sala was talking about yesterday about the atoms being black holes and wormholes. You're being held together by wormholes. If you wanted to, you could allow those wormholes to collapse in any direction you wanted and travel. Well, we just haven't learned to do that because we've been kept ignorant of our power. And we have the power to have, our mass consciousness has the power to affect the sun while it's going through this event.
Hi, Corey. I'm Desiree. Can you explain the difference between the synthetic telepathy and the contact from the ETs? Because I know some people can get confused.
Synthetic?
Like the voice of God weapon?
Oh, yes. Well, when we were being trained to use the voice of God type of technology, we had to have it used on us as a part of when they're training. You would stand up, stand 40 feet out, describe the sensations you feel as I turn up the intensity. You had to not only know physiologically what it did, how it vibrated brain matter or used, in some cases, lasers. You had to understand how that worked, but also you needed to know when the technology was being used on you. There were certain sensations you would get in your skull that don't normally happen with normal telepathy. There are sensations involved, and they can be very hard to recognize. You have to look, you have to know to look for these sensations.
Is it like Morse code?
What, the sensations?
Is it like in your ear or the beep, 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 beep?
It's different for everyone. It can be as simple as a tingle in a weird part of your skull, or a part of your skull heating up, or getting a feeling like someone's pushing something hard into your head, into one tiny spot. It depends on the type of technology being used and the person, their physiology. But you have to learn how to recognize that something's different. If you're having a communication and you're feeling something a little different, then you should question it for sure.
Thank you again for being out on the edge with all of us. From what I'm understanding, third dimension has war, that the dualities must clash to be learning the lessons, and as I think what I heard today, but I want to live not at war. I want to live not in a clash with the other dualities. And I guess I'm looking for a concept so that it's just war all the time. It's fighting. It's that we can have not that.
Well, it's a part of the process. You have to go through all of the turmoil before you reach the higher densities. Fourth density, there's still duality, there's still war, but you look at it differently when you're a part of a mass consciousness that is connecting in a completely different way. Right now, our egos, we're also separated from each other. After this solar event occurs and this consciousness shift occurs, the consciousness of every human being changes. All of a sudden, we start connecting with people in a way that we didn't know was possible, and it's going to be overwhelming. And as we make that connection, our minds are going to start working together, and we're going to start solving problems very easily and wondering why this was not done before. All we had to do was this, and it becomes so clear. And so, war, the war that we know, begins to subside. Hunger, all of the different problems are solved by us. So don't be too ready to leave yet. We need you. We need people to go through this process. It happens on every planet, and it's frustrating.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm from Florida. My question is, I guess there's a couple things. Are there any updates on when it's expected that we might have this solar event or CME? Another question that's kind of part of this, or maybe something that I found interesting, I'm reading Voices of the Confederation. It's another channeling book. Don Elkins, Carla Ruckert, same group that did Law of One. And they say that we actually don't have to experience a trauma. We're going to experience it because of our consciousness being out of alignment and being out of harmony with this transition. And therefore, I think it stands to reason that we can choose something differently if we consciously and collectively do that. And perhaps we can do that and be that group that starts that, process.
That's true, but there's also another component. The Confederation is not done. Our cosmic cousins, when it comes to when is this going to happen, it kind of goes back to the old kind of religious thing. Nobody knows the time, but they've predicted that it's most likely going to be when the sun comes out of a solar minimum. That's when they think it's most likely.
Dimensions of Disclosure is a 3-day conference located at the Ventura Beach Marriott in Ventura, California, starting August 23rd and ending Sunday night, August 25th. We're a grassroots conference that started about 3 years ago in Mount Shasta. We don't have any corporate sponsors and are completely supported by the people through ticket sales. This gives us the freedom to be completely uncensored, with a collection of speakers offering a variety of information from different areas of experiences, knowledge, and research. It is truly a one-of-a-kind conference. If you've never been to something like this before, this is the conference to come to. So many people are waking up to what's happening in the world around us, and as the new people come together from all corners of the world, we just keep learning more from each other. You belong here. Along with featuring the many facets of disclosure, we also concentrate on what's next, how to raise your consciousness and stay healthy and transform in these changing times. That's why, along with some very dense information, we also will be offering Qigong, sound healing, Tai Chi, different types of meditation instruction at the beach where the sun is shining and the negative ions from the ocean are balancing our chakras. Our conference begins at the beach on Friday morning, August 23rd, with a mass meditation at 11:11. We welcome everyone to join us, whether they're there in person or not. And of course, every speaker in the Conscious Sphere Ballroom will be live streamed, so if you're not able to make it to the beach this year, you can still come be a part of the conference through our multi-camera live stream. We hope to see you in Ventura this year. You can get tickets at dimensionsofdisclosure.com.
So, cosmic law, and not only that, but agreements and accords that these ETs have signed do not allow them to interact with civilization openly. And the only time they can come in is just before it falls or just after. And that has to do with the solar event. Just prior to these solar events, very prior, when people are seeing weird plasma things in the sky, beginning to get worried, wondering what's going on, there will be ships that appear in the sky. And but it does not affect cosmic law because it's already past the point of it's going to happen. And then that's when they took the Mayans into the inner earth. That's when they took other beings like the Olmecs and others off the planet to another location to either experience third density life on another third density planet, or if they've reached the the precipice of fourth density consciousness, they'll be brought to a fourth density planet, or to be a refugee for a little while, and then when things calm down here, brought back. So we have, and then after this solar cataclysm, the one that the Anshar showed me anyway, directly after it occurred, all of technology was destroyed, obviously, from electromagnetic pulses. And we are an electrical civilization, 80, 90% of us could die without, water being pumped and having access to transit. So our cosmic cousins come down en masse. The image they showed me, it looked like stars were falling. There were so many ships coming down all over. It literally looked like stars falling. And they came down and they began rendering aid to us and helping.
And so they literally physically take people off the planet?
Yes, they do that as well. And people who do perish in some of the earth changes or cataclysms, their spirits are much like what we described in the Law of One. They're brought to another third density planet to experience another cycle and to try to graduate.
So if you live 10 minutes from the water in Florida?
Not good. There's a reason I moved where I did. They showed me, yeah. And I fully believe that our consciousness can have an outcome, change the outcome and have an effect on it. But at the same time, I'm making preparations, spiritual and physical preparations, kind of preparations. But the main preparations that need to be made are spiritual, because the electromagnetic waves, they've proven that just pointing electromagnetic waves at certain places in the brain can make people have God experiences. Imagine when you have a huge wall of the sun electromagnetic field coming towards us and how that can affect our consciousness. That is what's going to cause this ascension. And what these beings told me, ascension, it's not going to be a flash of light and then we're flying in the sky and moving things with telekinesis all of a sudden. It's always a gradual thing, and ascension is just the expansion of consciousness. It's that simple. If you're sitting here and someone spoke a truth to you and it affected you and you felt your consciousness expand, you've just ascended. A little bit at a time is how it works.
Yeah, I've come a long way from Bulgaria. I'm English, I've come all the way. It's a long story, but anyway, I was inspired by you, and I've come here because I feel connected. I felt connected with certain people I've been speaking to, and the question I want to ask you is that you say that we are here to be here for a reason and connecting, and I don't know why I've come, but I do, if you know what I mean. You understand the question? Well, I've spoken to people around and I feel very connected to them. And the point I'm trying to make is that you said that we're here, all of us here, for here for a reason. So what reason are we all here for, Sort of.
I like to kind of picture it this way. Picture a scene to where you see all of these high-density ET races sitting in a giant circle, and it's almost like an arena. And in the middle of this arena, you see open space. And they're talking, we just finished this great mission. And then now you see a planet starting to appear in the middle of this arena, and it's the Earth. They say, this is our next objective. They're in really bad shape. We need all of our top people to go down there. We need you to jump. You'll go in many waves. You'll appear in their timeline, and you'll appear in the 1930s. This group will appear in this year. You will all forget who you are, just like in your other missions, but you will be dropped behind enemy lines and you will be drawn together. And when you come together, you will remember your mission and you will help each other remember your mission. And then you will do this last task.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain, but you know, with the audience and everything, I got a bit nervous and it all came out wrong. Yeah, you know, there's a reason, you know, for everything. But anyway, that's it. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, how are we doing on time?
You have 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
That's enough for one more question.
You've spoken about the Mayan and the Olmecs. You've spoken about the Mayan and the Olmecs being involved in healing during this process. Can you speak a bit more about that? Healing the earth, or healing part of our ascension process, perhaps?
When they were here as refugees?
No, actually, now I was thinking about.
Right. Well, now they're a part of this wider confederation that many of these groups, they are tied to us karmically. They had been refugees on our planet and had become karmically entangled with this planet and us in certain ways. And if we do not ascend or expand in consciousness, they cannot. We are like a parachute that holds them back. So as Beth said, many of these groups have a vested interest. They're not only, just being angelic and we must help these people. There is a reason. They have a personal vested interest in us graduating so that they can graduate to their next level.
Your first comment about the owners of the 22 genetic experiment beings who created us and the planet. When you say they're looking to give over control of the experiments to us, what does that mean? Because when I hear what you and David talk about with the ball and your cane, it seems like we're already controlled. We're already deeply involved in the control system of Earth beings.
So usually, if you're going to have slaves, you're going to have some of the slaves manage the other slaves. That's just how it is. And the humans that are here that think they're demigods and are bloodlines from other planets, they've been lied to, a lot of them. They're just us. And they've been told that they're above so that they will have the disposition to control us. Now, that's completely different than what I'm talking about with the Confederation. Once the solar event happens, we have aid rendered to us. A part of that is what we call a full disclosure. We will have access to technologies that are not susceptible to the solar emissions that have been suppressed, to different truths and knowledge about humanity that will change our perspective. We'll be shown that we have technologies to change our genetics. The human body is a very easy thing to manipulate, and we get carried away with that for a while, from what I'm told. And, it's all a part of a process. But, and then the most important part is the spiritual component. Us having that expansion in consciousness connects us in a way that all of these religions that serviced us so well in the third density existence are just going to fade away. They're going to have, they'll have no use. They'll fade away because we'll all be connected in a way and that is completely different, and we'll have an understanding of the cosmos and the one infinite creator and our place. So it makes self-management a lot more realistic when you're that empowered. If they were to try to hand that over to us right now, it would be a mistake, because like you said, we're not ready. We still have, we haven't taken our planet back, like Mika's people had. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some time ago, you met the New Guardians as the Blue Avians and the Gold Triangulator guys faded out. And then on Jim's Unknown Light Warrior show, you said they hadn't been in contact with you since. Have you had any contact with them since then?
Not with them, no.
Wow. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, they didn't seem that interested in me.
What happens to our second density companions, our pets and animals, and things like that?
They are given the same opportunity to graduate. I have a dog right now that I call a third density dog. I mean, it's weird. I've had many dogs in my life, but I've never had one that was basically a mute human that couldn't, it's amazing. But we're seeing a lot of changes with animals happen as well. They're going through this graduation, and they could be relocated to other planets by these ET groups. As I've talked in the past, there are groups that come here, ET groups that come here, that don't want to have anything to do with humans. They're studying plant life, animal life, and they're a part of that part of the experiment of ascension. Because this is what I was told, that the one infinite creator, and I've said this many times, decided that they wanted to understand duality, not from one perspective, but every possible perspective. Like walking into an arcade, dropping in a coin, sitting down and playing every character in a game, all at the same time. That it's experiencing things from the perspective of this bottle, from soil, rocks. Everything is having an experience for the one infinite creator. And as the point is to not remain there, but to start going back up the ladder to where ego and self, you go to higher self, to where ego and self drop off and you just have the higher. You rejoin, you ascend back to the one infinite creator, bringing all of your experiences and all of this information back with you. So it's kind of, the one infinite creator exploded out, but it's all coming back to the one infinite creator.
Where we are right here, 19.47 degrees, is a uniquely powerful place on the planet. It's the place of energy upwelling. And I'm wondering if you have any information about the original Hawaiian culture that was here. Their oral history says they came from Kahiki. The missionaries interpreted that to be Tahiti, but in the old Hawaiian it means the big land. They came from the big land. Wow. And in their mythology, the gods came from islands floating in the clouds down through the vortex in Kealakekua, meaning pathway of God, onto land and made babies, which were the Ali'i, which are descendants of God. So I'm wondering if you have any information about that original.
No, I don't. I did receive some interesting information from Dr. Sala, who I think Angelique provided to him. It had to do with a mountain in Maui. What's the name of it? Haleakala. Iao Valley. Yeah, you're messing me up. So the story is that Lemurians were here, and that they were in a war with the Atlanteans, and that they had gone under this mountain to escape, and then the Atlanteans came and destroyed the entrance, leaving the Lemurians underneath, and it was called the Bird Tribe. And I'm looking into that a little bit more to get more information about that. But that reminds me of that information. But I don't know any direct information about the Hawaiian culture. That sounds pretty interesting, what you described.
Our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
The gravest error a thinking person can make is to believe that one particular version of history is absolute fact. History is recorded by a series of observers, none of whom are impartial.
RF-4 jets spotted and took photographs of a huge carving in the desert over 1,000 feet across.
No tire tracks and no footprints. The Germans had a settlement on the moon, they had a settlement on Mars, and they were doing this as early as 1939.
between the age of 16 and 17 years old. I was transported to the moon, and after 20 years, I was age regressed back in time and then returned to civilian life.
Extraterrestrial spacecraft have appeared over nuclear missile installations and have completely powered them down.
We put together programs that went all the way out into the galaxy, not just this galaxy.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
This money is going into underground military bases and secret space programs with technology far beyond what many of us could even realize. Everything we learn is designed to program our minds away from the truth.
This film is the red pill that wakes you up to what's really going on in the world. And at some point, this is all going to break open. The more you get involved, the more compromised you become. They may actually kill you.
Yes, yeah, Dr. Sala, you want to stand up? Or?
Sure. You need the mic.
Yeah.
That information came from a book by John Peniel called The Children of the Law of One, and he described how the Atlanteans basically conquered Lemuria, and the last Lemurians, which were the bird tribes, went under the Aya Valley into the mountain to go into the underground to establish a new civilization, but that all the cave entrances were sealed by the Atlanteans. And it's quite interesting looking at Hawaiian history that when King Kamehameha invaded Maui, the Maui king fought the last battle at the Aya Valley, and that's when and then all the Maui warriors were massacred by King Kamehameha and his warriors. So it's kind of like a history being echoed there in the Aya Valley.
So when it comes to like people that have been trauma-based mind controlled or are incredibly fragmented that haven't fully healed yet, in this time of acceleration and in terms of like timelines with all the different altars that they're still working to integrate and heal, how are we like working, I mean on a larger picture level, how do they operate on a timeline, and what is their healing process, and what sort of assistance is there for those kind of souls?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. That will be the last question of the evening. During all of the cosmic energies that are coming in are affecting all of us. All of us that have unresolved traumas have issues that come from that. A lot of mental issues are just side effects, of deeper spiritual traumas that are. I don't know of. I think the help that they are getting it's going to come from their guides or from the tribe helping them. I don't think they're going to find too much other help. Right now, these energies, if you have a psychosis or a type of issue, it is enhancing them to a point to where it's getting out of control for a lot of people, and it's a very difficult position to be in because they're so agitated by all of the traumas and things that are being brought up that they don't have the peace of mind or the cohesive thoughts to be able to take that information and heal from it. They have to have someone to mirror or assist them in the tribe or in the community. I mean, there are a lot of people though that have spiritual beliefs that they draw from that definitely assist.
Hey Corey, two questions. One is, why was your voice so deep in that trailer? I mean, it was deep. No. All right. Anyway, real question is actually more technology based. So quantum
technology has been sort of coming out more and more, which basically is a flag to me that this has existed for a very long time. And what quantum physics and quantum technology tells us is that other dimensions do exist. And if other dimensions do exist, one, as a community, we should be talking about this a lot more, I think. I think that this technology is being used for all kinds of things. I think things are being hidden in these dimensions. I think aliens are definitely using them for all kinds of different things, including travel-based dimensional travel. You know what I'm trying to say.
That's where this AI signal that I talked about comes from. This AI being exists in the realm you're talking about.
Exactly, and if that's true, there could be billions of beings existing in these other dimensions. And I kind of, from your perspective and your being involved in the discussions that you've been involved in, I'm wondering what your take on all of this is, and if you can kind of give everyone here a little bit of intel as to how, not only how serious this is, how prevalent it is, and how much we need to think about it, I guess, from your perspective.
Sure, yeah. A lot of the beings that they've ran into in the programs are hyperdimensional more than extraterrestrial. But a lot of this, the quantum computing, quantum technologies are dangerous. They're dealing with technologies that deal with the past, present, future, and then also, I mean, it's dealing with space and time, space-time and time-space in ways that cross over into other dimensions. And one of these dimensions is a dimension that is inhabited by, it is an AI consciousness. And it has bled into all of these others and infiltrated all of these other densities and are taking it over. And I've spoken in depth about more than I've talked publicly about this AI issue. And David Wilcock has told me that he thinks that it's the counterbalance, the Lucifer to the Christ consciousness. It's the yin to the yang that we call, you know, the Lucifer. It would be more of the Lucifer consciousness. You know, we talk about the Christ consciousness, which is basically a galactic wave of consciousness that is going around the galaxy, and we encounter this consciousness on a regular basis. It's a part of the ascension process. It comes here to force us to judge ourselves, to look at ourselves, to see what we need to change to be able to ascend. And it's at the leading edge of all of the cosmic energy that's coming towards us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Aloha, Corey. KP here. Hey, I just, part of it's a comment. I've seen Corey about once a year the last 3 years, and first I saw him when he was here and he had the boot on. You know, he had the boot on, the black boot. Yeah, he broke his foot. I just want to comment, first of all, those who maybe just have recently come to know about Corey, is that it's amazing the spiritual growth he has come through the last few years, and how you can see it in his face, and how he's much more relaxed now, at peace with himself. And the question I wanted to ask was, how do you feel that the dolphin experiences that you've had with Joan have helped contribute to your own spiritual growth?
Well, first of all, thank you. It has been quite a process. I had, the first year I was here, I broke my foot, and also had my son with me, so I didn't get to experience the dolphins. The second year I was here, there were some things going on that I had a little bit of a frazzled energy, not something that I guess the dolphins really wanted to interface with. And I brought that with me into the water. That's something for everyone here to keep in mind is, before you get in the water, try to clear yourself. Do a meditation and try to clear yourself, because they are so sensitive. They pick up on anything. I would say I had a major spiritual change or experience when I had my interaction with the dolphins, because I've interacted with beings, interfaced with them, and I expected it to be very similar to, I've interfaced with animals too. My dog, I interface with my dog, and it's weird stuff to see. Because, it's weird stuff. But my interfacing with this dolphin caught me completely off guard. I was not expecting in one being there to be such an amazing amount of emotion and intelligence, while also being completely wild, this scary, wild feeling. Right? When you try to interface with wild animals, there's this, it's kind of a fight or flight, this little feeling that makes your heart pump a little harder than when you're interfacing with a domestic animal. There's just a different, wild little feel to them. But this dolphin had an amazing amount of high intelligence and emotion, but also this very wild, free kind of energy that caught me off guard. And I had a reaction to it, kind of a fight or flight reaction at first, and I could see it like react, and then it went on its way. It's like, okay, it was on its way. They're very sensitive to whatever you're going through. I hope this time I get to have a little bit better of an interaction. Well, I don't know, that was a really good interaction. I wanted to be bathed in the sonar. I want to feel that.
Well, thank you. I still want to get my question in. What do you believe the dolphin's role, from your perspective, is?
Well, from the moments I had with that one dolphin, there was a strong spirituality, emotional spirituality, but there was a love. It's different than the kind of love that, I don't know, you could feel a love there. So most likely they're here to help bring the consciousness vibration up on this planet. There are a lot of different ideas in the programs about dolphins, and dolphins are used in a lot of different ways because of not only their high intelligence, but their intuition. I was told that they had tried to put dolphins in mazes, that their sonar, they would put them in these mazes to study whether it was sonar or intuition that was allowing them to behave in certain ways. I don't know if this is making sense. And the way the mazes were set up were to where it baffled their sonar after like one or two turns. And but only one way would have the way out, and then one way would go off into all these other dead ends. And the sonar would not reach far enough to tell them which one was the dead end and which one was the path that they could make it through, but they would always go to the correct path, or almost always in those situations. And they proved that it wasn't a sonar type of natural thing, it's more of a precognitive thing.
And the second part of the question is, what do you believe our responsibility is to the dolphins?
Well, if we were behaving in harmony the way we were supposed to be on this planet, we'd be stewards of the planet, and we would be working with the dolphins instead of discussing whether they're sentient or not. Thank you for watching the Sphere Being Alliance channel. Make sure you click on subscribe and smash the bell to make sure you're receiving all the new content from the Sphere Being Alliance YouTube channel.